So, hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Menopause Bodybuilding and Me. I am honoured to have Deb Baker on today. She is somebody I've followed for years, actually, a good 2 or 3 years. I think I've followed you, Debs. And yeah, I she was amazing. She was in WPD, and now she's coming back down to figure because she was figure to start with. So that's why I've got her on today. We're going to chat all things figure. We're going to have a quick chat about why she's come back down to figure and go over some questions that have been given to us from you guys, which is amazing. So I'm going to pass over to Debs and she's just going to do a wee quick kind of intro and let us know her history on competing and how long she's been doing it and what categories she's been in. So over to you, Debs. Hello and welcome.
Okay. Hello, thank you for having me on. And yeah, thanks for following me for the past 3 years. You've probably seen all kinds of rubbish that I post on my socials in that time. Yeah,
All
I've got
relevant rubbish.
I just post all sorts. I do, you know me, I post loads of stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, so my history is quite so I started bodybuilding back in 2015. Previous to that, I did
Oh,
fashion modeling and stuff like that. I
yeah.
never really even looked at that. So got into the gym, started doing that in 2015, started competing only a year later, so 2016. And
Right.
that was in the NABA West. So it's kind of some people still compete with NABA, but it's not as sort of prominent as it used to be.
Yeah.
And I started in athletic figuring in NABA. Didn't
Right.
do too well. I looked awful. I prepped myself. Just I mean, you can find pictures of it. They're absolutely awful. Um, didn't carb up, didn't do anything. Like I came in shredded, but I lost a ton of muscle from doing it.
All right.
And
Okay.
then I came back the year after, competed in it again, placed second, got an invite to the British. That was in 2016. Did another year. No, so that was 2016. Then 2017. Then I competed in 2018.
Yeah.
There I did PCA.
Oh yeah.
Um, and that was that was quite a good one. I mean, I competed at that time at the first Body Power in 2018, and I went up against Emma Hindman.
Oh yeah.
And I came third to her, and a lady in front of me, she was called Bew. Had a beautiful physique. But it was against like 16, 18 competitors, I think. And yeah, I placed third, so I was pretty chuffed with that.
Yeah. Yeah. That is great.
Yeah, and I got an invite to the final there, which was later on in the year, so that was in the May. And I also took part in the first two bro show that they threw as well, that had the Ben Weeder
Uh-huh.
in figure as well. So there I went in figure and I got absolutely obliterated. I
Oh.
think I came one short of last out of like 14 people.
Oh no.
Yeah. So the thing is, I was like, well, you know, like that's where I think Natasha, that's now wellness, I think that's where she won her pro card actually at that show.
He looks
I don't know.
absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Holy
mean, she was
cow.
amazing when she was in figure, to be fair, but she's obviously
Yeah.
she's changed over to wellness.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't do too well there. Then I went to the PCA later in the year. Um, Looked awful. Looked absolutely awful. I was done then with prep. 2019 again, I competed in UKBFF, so it was called
Oh
Body
yeah.
Fitness at the time.
Uh-huh.
Um, Came second in that, and then at the British I came second as well. And then I did a local show to me because I'm in Cornwall. That was the Mr. and Mrs. Plymouth. I don't know if you've heard of that one. I just did that
Ah,
just to sort of finish
I've
off.
heard of the Mr. and Mrs. ones, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I
That's
did
right.
that. It was, and then I was in trained because I was a bit bigger, so I was in trained.
Yeah.
Came first. Had 2020 off, and then I went back in and competed 2021. So I did figure
Mhm.
IFBB, so did that with two bros. I won my height class, and then I came second in the overall. And then
Ah,
on the same day, they were like, you know, like try out women's physique. So I went in women's physique and kind of cleared up with both of those.
wow.
Yeah, and that's why I really moved up to it because I was kind of suggested to do so.
Uh-huh.
And then yeah,
How did you
last year
feel when they asked you to move up? Were you quite excited? Like, were you like,
I was
really?
excited and a bit like, do you think I can actually do well here? Because like the women are big, they are big
Yeah.
women. And I looked at the lineup from the previous sort of qualifiers, the regional qualifiers, and I was like, they're big women. But they were like, no, just go for it, you know. And so I did
Hmm.
pretty well. Again, my conditioning wasn't where it should have been at that point.
Right.
But I mean, I love women's physique. I absolutely love it. I mean, the
Yeah.
posing, I've always done the posing, obviously, because it kind of transfers over from like when you're doing athletic figure, trained figure, still doing, you know,
Yeah.
overhead bicep pose and stuff like that. So I loved it, and I mean, I had a very successful year last year in women's physique.
Mhm.
You know, I took overalls, won all my sort of height classes and stuff, but missed out on my pro card twice.
I
And
know, gutted for you.
I know
Honestly,
it
so
was
gutted. I was like, no.
so frustrating. But you know what? Like it was down to the rule. Obviously, in Finland there weren't enough athletes, and then coming back and competing, the woman that I beat 2 weeks before beat me because she just came in sharper.
Yeah.
She looked better, like she deserved the win, to be fair. But I was just gutted. So I was like, right, now looking at things from a perspective of, you know, what do I need to do in
Uh-huh.
order to obtain, be a pro athlete in either like women's physique. I was like, well, what I think I need to do as an individual, I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And I'd rather have, because I love the sport and I love competing, I'd rather have
Hmm.
the longevity in the sport. So kind
Absolutely.
of reevaluated things. And I was like, you know what? I still have a love for figure. I still follow all the athletes. I absolutely
Hmm.
love it. And I mean, again, they're not women to be trifled with. They are big.
Yeah.
Like, the pro stage, they're absolutely fantastic. I watched all of them at the Arnold's live, and it blew me away, some of them. And I was like, you know what, this is where this is where I should be, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just thought, you know what, I won't ever be bikini. I don't think I'd ever fit bikini. Wellness, I don't
No.
think I have the genetics leg wise. And bodybuilding would be something that's obviously above women's physique. So
Oh
for
God,
me,
yeah.
I was like, yeah, I've been in figure. I love figure. I was like, so let's get the heels back on and give it a go and see if I can, stand up with some of the women that are there, because they are brilliant. And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not sort of I've got a lot of work to do. I've got a lot of work to do to sort of be a decent contender with them as well.
I know that's my fear. Because well, I've just done one competition. My first one was 2021, and it was PCA,
Yeah.
and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. But
Mm.
at the time, my coach and quite a few my posing coach as well, and my coach asked another coach that is quite predominant in the PCA, and they were all like, "Yeah, I was athletic figure," and they're like, "You're getting put up to train. You'll get put up to train."
Yeah.
And we're standing in our wee line, and they were going through the numbers, and they went, "And 30," and I was 34, and they went 35, and I was like, "Oh," so I was like, "Oh, here I go."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
they were like, 35. And I was like, oh, that's not me. And I did feel a wee bit like gutted because everybody,
Yeah.
I think as well, with it being your first show and then having
Mm.
loads of people tell you, oh, yeah, you're doing, you look amazing, you're going to get put up to the next category or the next.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, and then it didn't happen. And then I didn't place at all. And I just felt so deflated.
Yeah.
But I got judges' feedback, and I was too muscular for athletic figure, but just not conditioned enough for
For
trained.
trained. Yeah.
So I was like, well, that's fair enough. Do you know? At least I know now.
Yeah, but you know what?
So
That's a good point though. Like you felt like you've got the muscle, just getting
yeah,
a bit more of that conditioning. It's. I'd rather have more muscle.
yeah,
And
I know, I know.
well, yeah,
And yeah, it was just a bit. Well, everything's a whirlwind when it's your first show as well. You're like,
yeah. So
don't know
many
what to
emotions.
expect. Uh-huh,
Yeah,
yeah. But I've learned from that, so that's good.
but
So
you're
I
looking
have.
great. You're looking really good.
Thanks. I have had a year off, and obviously, like my partner and I, we were working on super yachts. He's still on the super yacht, but I've left now. I've kind of stepped away from that because I missed proper training and,
Yeah,
you know, nutrition. It's great having your food made for you, but I don't know what the chef's putting in.
yeah.
And, there's oils and everything like that, and I can't keep track. And then you can't weigh your food when the boat's moving,
Hmm.
obviously. Doesn't
Sounds
work.
cool though. Sounds like a
So
nice job to have, but not obviously
it
perfect
was.
bodybuilding though, is it?
No, no. So I was like, right, I have to remove myself from this industry now, please.
Oh,
I
bless
need to
you.
train and do my online coaching. And
Mm.
so, yeah, just going back to that, which is great. Because I really did miss that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's part and parcel of it, I suppose. So yes, figure. We are figure girls. Do you like the heels? First question. Do you like wearing the heels?
I don't love them, but
Mm.
I mean it's part of the package, isn't it? Really, it's
Uh-huh.
when I took them off to go into physique, then I was like, you know what, this is bliss walking on
Great.
stage
Mm.
without the heels. But I feel the heels add in that element of poise and stuff when you're on stage, like they help with your walk. And
Yes.
you know, you can, if you look at a lot of women, like I mean, some of them execute it beautifully, but if you look at some of the women in the larger categories that don't wear heels, you can get in the habit of almost stomping on stage.
Right.
Um, Well, I mean, that's what I feel anyway. I don't
Uh-huh.
stomp on stage, but I feel like with the heels, it kind of just gives like a nice silhouette to the physique, and
Yes.
it's part of it, isn't it? Really, but it's not. Is I found them difficult in, well, you'd probably know PCA, for example, when you're doing like a back double bicep or side tricep.
Hmm.
Maneuvering into those positions with heels on is difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult doing the poses in flat feet when you're hot, you're dehydrated,
Yeah.
like when you sticky tan, then the
Yeah.
hills having that extra element of like, let's see what you can do and not mess up. I've had a couple of instances in the hills. I had strapless ones at one point, and when my feet were getting sweaty and the tan, one slid off halfway through a
Oh my
pose.
God.
I managed to salvage it, but I mean, that's why I always have strapped ones at the back now. But
Yeah.
I do like them. I think they look nice. I wouldn't, I wouldn't mind not wearing them. But
Uh-huh.
how about
I
you?
know. Well, I've got a love-hate relationship because I'm not a high heel wearer at all. So
Mm.
like my posing shoes are my heels
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, yeah,
And but I feel they present my physique better.
Mm.
And I've actually went up for my first show, I had like just a little 3.5 inch heels, and I've went
yeah,
up to 4.5 inch now, and I see a massive difference in even just getting my quads engaged, and they
yeah,
just engage better in
yeah,
higher heels. Um, and I've got hyperextension in my joints as well, which doesn't help. So I've got to really sometimes try really hard to show my muscle.
yeah,
And if I've been away and I've had to do a check-in with my coach and I've not had my heels with me, then I
Mm.
find it harder to show, like especially my quads, because
yeah,
I've got big thighs. That's where the kind of fat goes to on my body when I'm in off season and stuff. It sticks to the thighs,
yeah. Me too.
and it's really really difficult to show
Yeah,
any definition. I'm just
yeah,
like,
yeah. You're like,
where's my
where is it?
muscle gone?
Yeah, you catch a glimpse from like the sun outside, and it'll just hit it at the right angle. You're like, oh, and then you
Yeah,
turn away, it's
I'm
gone.
like, oh, there's a bit of muscle there. Look, outline it.
Draw on it, contour it. It's definitely there.
Yeah,
But yeah,
um,
I think you're right. They do help with sort of posing. I mean, I think the mistake that people make as well, especially in the categories where you've got to wear heels, they'll spend the majority of the year posing in trainers, flat shoes, and
uh-huh.
then come like show day, or they'll start practicing like a week before in the shoes. And I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, you've got to literally out the floodgates. You've got to kind of get them on straight away, because you can condition
absolutely.
yourself to the
Hmm.
poses that way, can't you?
Yeah, yeah. And then you know exactly how to work your legs,
Hmm.
especially. Do you know, it's like,
Yeah.
and your glutes as well. You've got to engage the glutes in
Mm.
a different way to having bare feet or your trainers on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does. It totally helps. I'm starting to take my heels to the gym and stuff with me now because
Yeah.
I've had, yeah, just to,
Chuck them on
just
with
at
your
the end of a
socks.
session, stick
Yeah.
them on and people look at you like I'm not the most confident person when it comes to posing in a gym. I'm really
Mm.
like for filming and everything. If you've got to film a set and I'm just like I look around and I'm
Yeah,
like,
must
oh, who's watching me? And
But it's
then I
good
think,
just to
oh
chuck them on.
yeah, yeah,
Just chuck them
absolutely.
on.
Come on, get a wee shot, practice. And that's what it's down to, practice, practice, practice. But yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, you'll see, honestly, you'll see. I've got friends like female bodies, male bodybuilders, and at the end of the session, they'll literally just strip right off. They've got their bums hanging out, they've got everything hanging out, and they just do not care. And I'm like, well, do you know what? Fair enough, actually, because and
Yeah,
this is probably more so like bodybuilding gym, so to speak.
I
But
know.
yeah, well, I mean, I tend to. I mean, now like I take my shoes with me and do it a little bit at the end, or I do it in between sets or something like that. I always do like at least 3 rounds a day, just
Uh-huh.
to make sure that I'm holding it. And the thing as well, like, is holding the poses as well, because people rush them quite a lot.
Yes.
And you've got to remember on stage, like, that's not realistic at all. Like, they will put
No.
you through the rounds, especially because it's quite a popular category as well. They're going to be doing comparisons non-stop, so you need to
Mm-hmm.
kind of hold those poses and condition yourself in them, because you will know, like, after a while, like the backache goes, like this,
Yeah.
because you condition yourself into. I remember when I first started posing, I had one of my friends that was showing me a bit, and I was like, how on earth am I meant to, like, the rear, sort of the rear relaxed one? So how on earth am I meant to do that? I
Yeah.
was like,
I
how's
know.
my back meant to contour like to that? I was like, I don't know,
I
but
know.
it's
And it's
time.
hard for me as well because I've got degenerative disc disease of the spine. So basically, the wee discs between my vertebrae are wearing away right at the base, and I've got
Yeah.
pretty much bone on bone. So my vertebrae are kind of crunching together
Banging.
sometimes. So for
Ooh.
me to get that bend, it's really
Yeah.
difficult because it's just like there's nothing there, there's no flexion there really. It's just like stuck.
Oh my God.
So
So no
it
one
can
can
be
complain then. No one can
no,
complain to you.
no, it's quite painful sometimes,
Yeah, I
it's
can
like, well,
imagine.
just but just practicing doing, if you've got a Swiss ball, doing back bends over that or
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like that does help it. But yeah, it is stiff. And I hadn't really practiced much when we were on the boat and stuff. And then when I came
Hmm.
off the boat and I started practicing again, I was just like, whoa, I was like literally blowing out my arse because I was just like,
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah,
hard.
people underestimate it massively. They're like, oh, and the thing is, if you get people on stage as well that make it look very, very easy, like they're very well
Yeah,
conditioned, they have been posing their arse off quite literally, like all the
yeah,
time.
all the
You
time.
don't want to be like super shaky on stage. Like I've had like a couple of times where I've been super shaky on stage. I remember like when I was doing a show last year, it's the MK Classic. They
Oh
were
yeah.
putting us through round after round after round after round, and they held us in a back double bicep. What felt like 10 minutes, but it was probably about 35 seconds. But that is a
It,
long, like that's a long time.
yeah.
And I was just
I mean,
like
flex fit.
grimacing like towards the back
Yeah.
of the stage. I was like, because they can't see your face, and then turn around. I'm like,
Yeah.
they will put you through your rounds as well. Like they like do obviously they've got to put on a bit of a show, haven't they? They could probably spot the winner off of like
Yeah.
a few poses, but they want to obviously move you around, give you a bit of an opportunity. And if you do get a few contenders that are very like a couple of points between them, they're going to want to compare. So
Yeah.
yeah, practicing your posing is very, very important.
So let's talk about different federations then. So,
Mhm.
I've only done PCA, and this year I'm hoping to do Two Bros Pro and FitX. I'm going to give them
Oh,
a go.
yes.
Yes. So difference between posing between those federations. So PCA, they're quite, what's the word? Not flouncy, but they like, it's more dancey. You
Yeah,
know what I
it's
mean?
the side poses are very like you can do so with IFBB. You're very much I would say it's uniform, so to speak, in
Mm.
IFBB. Like it's if you go into any sort of regional, it's going to be similar, but well, it would be for anyone. But with PCA, so like a side pose, for example, they almost you're doing a side relax, you're doing your course turns, like they can do them where they're almost staggered on one leg. I don't know if you've seen that, and they
Mm.
can put like a hand on their hip and then come out to the side.
Right,
Like
yeah.
so, whereas on an IFBB, if you do like your eye walk, you can that's your ability to showcase your physique and put in like your own little trademarks and stuff like that. And I mean, I was talking to Amanda Winston,
Yes.
because she moved as well from women's physique and stayed in figure. So I
Right.
was like, oh, I'm gonna miss doing my overhead pose and stuff like that. And she's like, you know
Mm.
what, I like sneak in like a flex tricep or a lat spread, and like you can kind of integrate those little things into your eye walk. So
Right.
that's like your own spin, right? But with the
Okay.
comparisons, you got to kind of keep them uniform. So
Yeah.
they're very much like your legs are like all together, like you're going to come around. You've got to have that nice top line to make sure it's coming into the V,
Hmm.
and like present everything nicely from that profile. But with PCA, for example, they're not like that. They kind of do the one on hip to the side,
Yeah.
and you can see it's a little bit, like I said, it's a little bit more like it's not everything's like nice and fluid in anyone's motions, but it's very different to
Yes.
IFBB. Like you would tell, if someone had competed in PCA and then gone on to an IFBB stage and they hadn't learned, you would
The
spot them like quite
uh-huh.
easily. Like they'd
Yeah,
stick out like a
yeah.
sore thumb.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Now, FitX, what kind of I meant to
I
look
had
that up actually, I forgot.
I say FitX. I've never competed with them,
Have you not?
nor have I watched any
No.
of their posing. But from what snippets I've seen, it is very similar to kind of PCA kind of
Right.
posing.
Okay.
Because that's come about at the time I'm doing IFBB. But yeah, from what I've seen. I mean, if someone watched this and I'm wrong, please correct me. But from what I've seen, it looks very similar to kind of PCA style
Uh-huh.
posing.
Where you can
Um,
get your front double bicep and your back double bicep and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because
Which I really do enjoy those poses, I have to admit.
yeah,
So I'm going to miss that in the Two Bros because obviously
yeah,
it's just
gone.
the mandatories, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a good point. I mean, that's gone. So obviously in PCA, if you're doing like toned figure, athletic figure, trained figure, you still they do their ones like that. So and even that in itself is actually different to the way women's physique would pose. So I had someone try and teach me from a PCA standard. They tried to tell me how to pose for women's physique in IFBB, and I was like, look, don't tell me how to pose for that, because that is wrong. So, like for toned figure, for instance, like they'll come up and they come up like quite high like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a crown.
Yeah. So if you watch my back double bicep or front double bicep, like mine, like I'll come up a little bit harsher, I'll come in and I'll do this. So
Yeah,
that obviously that's there. But within figure IFBB, we don't do any of that at all. You just do your eye
no,
walk. And like I said, in that you can add in your bits. Like you'll see people
yeah,
doing stuff like your chin, and you can kind of move your arms about and do like one on the side and stuff like that. But you're not really allowed to do a front double bicep. I think
no.
the one time I have seen someone do that in the eye walk was years ago when Meg Sylvester did it at the end of
Ah,
her eye walk. Did you see that? This was back, I think it was in a figure debut, I think it was.
I must have,
Um,
because I did
she did her eye
watch it.
walk, and then she popped in, and which I thought was awesome. She popped in a front double bicep at the end and walked off, and I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, you have
Yeah, you
to.
gotta, but that's obviously, like you said, you won't do, we don't get to do those, unfortunately,
No,
for figure.
no, I know. Um, I was at a posing workshop just the other week, and it was Hannah.
Oh
What's her
yeah, yeah,
surname?
Hannah.
Begins
Hannah's
with Hannah.
Hannah Health. Yeah, I know. I don't
Yes,
know her surname.
Hannah's
I just
Health.
know her
Yes,
Instagram now.
that one. And yeah, it was really good. We went through our mandatories, and it was just good to practice those, and
Mm,
just constantly go around. And she made us hold them for ages.
yeah, good. Yeah.
And it was like, oh, right, okay, I've got to relax now.
Yeah. I mean, you will sweat doing that. If it like, and especially if
Yes.
someone's making you run through it and taking you through
You
it,
know,
you will
people,
sweat your butt
as you
off.
say, people underestimate the whole posing thing, but it is like literally
Mm.
cardio.
Yeah.
It's like,
You know
get,
what? It's helpful as well. Like when you're carbing up, like when you carb up, you use your posing as a way to kind of help shunt the glycogen there as well, and like move your nutrients around. And if you're in the sort of back end stages of prep and your cardio has been taken, sometimes like coach will be like, right, pose, but this posing needs to be like on the point, like where you are sweating
yeah,
a little bit, you're
yeah,
perspiring, because it kind of keeps things moving. But yeah, if you put someone through a good posing session, like they're going to know about it the next day.
absolutely. Yeah. I remember when I first started posing, holy cow, I was just like, oh my God, my body, it feels in bits the next day. And then following day.
Yeah, yeah, it does get you.
Right. Well, we asked some questions or answer some questions that have been asked. Do you want to start?
I will, yes, I will get one up here. So, I've got one here. It says, "What's your number one favorite body part and exercise to train?" So, I don't know if
Ooh,
you love to go first.
my favorite body part to train is my back and my
Hmm.
shoulders. I
You're the same
absolutely
as
love,
me.
oh, just love. Like it's my strongest point on my body is my
Hmm.
back and my shoulders.
So you got really
Um,
good back and shoulders. I was
Hi.
snooping through your Instagram the other day, and I was like, damn.
I know it's well, you know how you feel when you've kind of in off season and everything just gets a bit
Hmm.
fluffy, as they say. And
Smooth.
then you can't really
Hmm.
see any definition, but now it's starting to kind of poke through again.
Oh.
So I'm like, yes, here
I
we
was gonna
go.
say you're trying to hide him underneath that cap sleeve t-shirt, but I
I
can see
know.
him through.
I was like, I won't get them out today.
Yeah.
You know.
You know what? I have that on days on podcasts. I'm like, even if I think I'm like, oh, do you know what? I look pretty jacked today. I'll cover up. And then I have days where I'm
Mm,
like, no, I look deflated today, so I'm definitely covering up. That
I
today's
know.
one of those days.
Yeah, I know. You're just a bit like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. But do you know
Yeah,
what?
so back
I'm
and
the
shoulders
same.
for me. You're the
Yep,
same.
I'm
Yep.
literally the same. I'm not gonna sound like cocky here, so to speak, but my back is one of my best assets, like my best pieces.
Yeah.
And I think you can see, like from the pictures and stuff, like how much attention to detail I put into training my back. I
Yeah.
don't know why, I've just always connected really well with it.
Yeah, the whole connection thing.
I
Do you
love
know
it,
what
absolutely love it.
frustrates me about my body is my left side. I have a lot less connection with my left side.
Hmm.
Obviously I'm right-handed, but like just even my lat trying to squeeze my left lat in comparison to my right, and it's just like
Difficult.
how
Yeah.
how Why is it not wanting to work
It
as
doesn't
well?
want to play ball at all. I
No,
have
it
that
doesn't.
with my arms, like my left side, all of my left arm actually is stronger than my right, and I'm right dominant.
Right.
So I have that as well. But I find for me, like with my back, I kind of like doing with lat stuff, especially like just like single arm stuff,
Yeah.
which really helps. So yeah,
Yes, it
that
does.
yeah,
Hmm.
so like lat pull downs, like I like them, but pull ups and then shoulders, you can't beat like a nice sort of variation of lateral raise.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I do love that. Yep, yep. So yeah, it used to be legs, but I hate legs now. I don't
Do you
hate
know what?
them.
I'm starting to get a bit of a love for them, you know, because they need to grow,
Yeah,
and I'm like, I have to love them to grow them, and
when
they need
I
growing.
know this is the thing. When I see it's leg day or glute day, I'm just like, oh. But then I surprise myself and have a really good one. I'm like, yes.
Yeah,
And
but do you not love that pump you get after as well when you're walking along? Every time you're walking, you feel your bum, and
yeah.
you're like, is everyone else seeing this moving like this? Because it feels awesome, and then you look at it and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, that looks good.
Oh. Right, okay. So I have a question, and it is, how many years has it taken to get to the point of being stage ready?
Well, I would probably say that I would say last year was probably my most presentable and probably stage worthy look. Like people would look at previous ones and say, do you know what, that's still stage ready. But for me, that would be last year. So that would take me up to 7 years of training. That would.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I've been on stage obviously before that, but I would say being 100% stage ready, I would probably say like last year.
Hmm. For me, I knew I always wanted to do bodybuilding, but my head wasn't in the right place. So I did train a lot, and I was a fitness
Yeah.
instructor and a personal trainer. So that was good. And I had the knowledge and everything like that. And I trained so hard, but my head just wasn't ready to do a prep or anything. So
Yeah.
I kind of kept going, oh, my body's not playing ball, but really it was,
Mm. It's the head. The head's got to be in the right place. If it's
yeah.
not,
And then all of a
you can
sudden,
prep.
my head was like, right, that's it. I'm going to do a competition, and my head, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I mean, I trained for, well, I was a fitness instructor. I became a fitness instructor back in 2011.
Oh,
So
God, a long time ago.
yeah,
Not a lot of
really,
ways actually.
really training since then because I love the gym. So I was always
Hmm.
in the gym. If I wasn't doing classes, I was always training. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess from then. So that was
It's just,
maybe 12 years. Jesus Christ.
but you know what though? That's really good because it shows how long, even if you're into fitness, how long it takes. Because I think a lot of people now are just going on stage for the sake of it, or because their friends done it, or because someone's told them to do it. Like you have to
Yeah.
internally, you have to really, really want to go on stage because if you don't have that screwed on, like, and you go into a prep, it's your
Hmm.
prep's not going to be good, and it's almost like anything can infiltrate you. You need to almost be like armored going into a prep, like mentally.
Yeah, yeah.
That mind needs to be calloused. If it's not, you're gonna suffer because so you get
100%.
comments all the way through it from people, like people question you, people try and sort of sabotage your prep with food, or I don't know. So you've got to
Yeah.
be in that mindset where, like, you know what, this is what I'm doing, and if you guys get in my way, you're out.
Do you know?
Because
No,
it's yeah.
absolutely. Because do you know what? I was really surprised at the lack of support I had from what I
Hmm.
thought were my friends, and
Yeah.
basically being told I was so unhealthy, and I was just like, all right, okay.
But you know what?
Actually,
It's not the healthiest of things to do. No, it's not. But there's so many other things that people do on a daily basis, a weekly basis that aren't considered healthy, but
yeah,
we don't comment on that. So
no,
it's I think it's a very good way as well to kind of, like you said there, to really pinpoint who your support network is as well.
yeah,
Because if you're
yeah,
trying to go and do this long term and people aren't supportive of you, it's good. You can then see, right, who's supporting me and who's not. Because
mhm,
even if they don't like it, friends should support
yeah,
you. So
yeah.
yeah,
And
it's a good
I
way
do
of
have a
coming.
few that are like, well, I don't really understand why you're doing it, but you're doing a grand job.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
those ones are fine. But yeah, the other ones that were, just a bit unsupportive and
Mm.
a bit, I was like, oh, okay. Didn't really expect that from you, but okay, I know where I stand now. Thank you.
Yep. You'd be like, you're in the bin.
Yeah. See you later.
See you later.
Do you have another question there?
I will see what else I've got. So I've got, how much time do you spend putting into like warming up for any sort of exercise?
So
They're
basically,
not figure
I
related,
am
but
actually quite naughty with the warming up part. Um, I
I
tend
had a
to,
feeling you were going to say that.
Mhm. I tend to take my walk as my warm up.
Hmm.
Depending on what I'm working that day. So obviously, if I'm doing arms and shoulders, I will like do rotations and
Hmm.
stretches before I actually lift anything. But I wouldn't say it was. And I suppose my first set, I do little kind of stretches in between my sets on my first
Yeah,
exercise, and then after that, I'm like, well, I'm pretty warm now, so that's fine.
yeah.
Muscles are fine. What about you?
So I'm quite similar. I won't, I think I see a lot of people spending time, they waste so much time and energy by doing too many warm-up sets and too many
Yeah,
reps within the warm-up sets. I'm like, you're just feeling that set and warming it up and getting ready. So I kind
yeah,
of I again I do like I do my pyramid sets, I do my feeder sets,
yeah,
same shoulders. I've because I had a shoulder injury recently. I've only started pressing again last week, so I've had like manipulations and stuff done. So I normally do like sort of banded works, external rotations. I do like upside down kettlebell rotations and stuff like that, get it all warmed up. And I do things where I like hang off and do like scapular depression and stuff to get that
yeah,
warmed up.
yeah.
So I do things like that. I do at the start and at the end
Hmm.
for my shoulders, my back. But I mean, legs, I'll tend to do some type of cardio just to shunt some more blood in there. And again, I'll just do like I call them like frogs and stuff like that. I do something like where
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like try to get my hips open.
yes,
But I mean, other than that, I'm not good at mobility stuff. Like I am
yeah.
awful at it. Like I'll give it to my clients to do, but I just don't do it myself. I'm
I
really
know,
bad.
I know, I'm the same. I really am.
I'm like, oh, I've got really tight hip flexors today. I'm like, oh.
I know I was walking the other day and I was like, oh my God, I need to stretch.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? That's always the way, though, isn't it? You're like nagging your clients, like, you've got to do this, you've got to do
Yeah,
that, and
you've
then
got
you're
to
like,
do it, you've
oh,
got, and then you're like,
like
oh.
I'm all stiff now.
Right, okay, before we run out of time, I have another question, which what do the judges look for in figure? So
Hmm.
basically, figure, it's the X, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
They
And I
they
mean,
like the broad shoulders, the big lats, and then
yeah,
coming into a nice tiny waist, and then
yeah,
quite a kind of sufficient girth,
booty.
shall we say? Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think
Um,
it's always good, especially if you're looking at, I mean, assuming we're talking about IFBB figure here. So
yeah.
yeah, I suppose always a good way to sort of look at, well, know what they're looking at is always to go by the Olympia standard, obviously like
Hmm.
the top three and look at them. I mean, like Sid Gillen obviously is like untouchable at the minute, but you've got Jessica Pandia, who's different structure again,
Yeah.
but she looks absolutely brilliant. And then Lola, I don't know if you've seen her as well. She's sort of up, I think she came third at the Olympia actually. She did the Arnold's, but she's got like a waist is like that ridiculous.
Wow.
And then obviously she's got big lats, big shoulders, but I always have people say that to me, like, oh, I'm worried because like my waist is like quite thick, you know, I'm
Mm.
not going to do well. So I'm like, well, if you've got a thick waist, you need to make it look smaller. Like
Yeah.
you say there, you've got to bring up those caps on the delts, you've got to get a nice sort of lats, and sort of add that sort of, mass to the bottom half as well.
Yeah, yeah,
But you're right,
absolutely.
it's not a nice X shape. And I mean, like, if you've got a small waist, obviously then it's about building the upper half, but people can have really small waists, but not really have the width up top as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's about blasting that really. Like, so I
yeah,
mean, typically people tend to hit back and shoulders quite a few times a week within a figure split anyway.
yeah.
Um, because you want that added width, don't you? That's what it's all
Hmm.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your split? How do you
My
do it?
split at the minute, so I'm doing my own thing at the minute. My split at the minute is I'm doing legs twice a week. So one's quad dominant, one's sort of posterior change like glutes, hams.
Yeah.
I do back and shoulders. I do a full shoulder day, and then I'll add a little bit of chest on there as well.
Right.
Um, I used to train arms like once a week, and that was only recently. And I've obviously had to take that out because if I'm pushing my arms up bigger, then I'm going to start dwarfing my delts, which I'm putting all the effort into
Yeah.
bring up. So I tend to just do a couple of exercises of that, really.
Yeah, I've got push, pull, legs, delts, glutes, and full upper.
Yeah,
And it's good because
good.
you get a lot of repetition, especially on the shoulders, the
Yeah.
delts.
So you're hitting it more frequently at that point, then,
Yeah,
aren't you? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's
However,
working.
sometimes my shoulders are just like, no, not today. I can't do it anymore.
You're like, you do as you're told.
Yeah, I'm like, yes, you are. Any other questions, Debs?
I
Oh, we,
think before this, I think we might cut out. Hang on.
I know.
Um,
Okay.
No, I think actually all the other ones are. Someone just asked what your favorite cheat meal is. The other ones aren't. I can't read the other ones.
I don't know. What is my favorite cheat meal? Probably a pizza, to be fair, but it has to be an Italian pizza, just because we were in Italy for so long. Proper Italian pizza, you cannot beat that. That is amazing.
I've never tried proper Italian pizza. I've only ever had the rubbery ones in the
Yeah.
UK.
Do you know, they're so light and so thin. So
Oh,
thin. Oh, just delicious. There was
I'd
this
say
place we
no.
went to, it was called Radici, and oh my God, it was the best pizza ever. Just
Oh
stop
my
this.
God.
Yeah.
You're making me hungry. I can't eat pizzas because I'm dairy intolerant, so I can't have
Oh,
pizza. And I've tried pizza with like the vegan cheese on it. I'm like, this just tastes like rubber on rubber. It was
yeah,
disgusting.
that's not great. Not great.
No. Maybe one day I'll sacrifice myself and have a nice proper Italian pizza. But I like I do you know what? I love spaghetti bolognese. Like that's my go-to. Like every time I come off
Mm.
stage and I finish shows, my mum cooks me up a beautiful spaghetti bolognese. That's
Oh,
my
does she?
favorite off-plan meal. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, we best leave it there because you've got to shoot off and do something now. So thank you so much
Yes.
for coming on.
You're very
Hopefully we
welcome.
can have another chat sometime in the future,
Yeah.
not too long.
Yeah.
That'd be
I'd love to come
amazing.
on again.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. So thank you very much. If you found this useful, please like, comment, share, ding the bell and all that jazz. And yeah, let me know if you find this interesting. Hopefully this has helped some of you figure girls out there, or just anybody that's looking to go into bodybuilding or trying to find a category you think you're maybe a bit too big for bikini. Then definitely watch this, and hopefully, if you've got any questions, fire them over, and Debs and I will try and answer them as best we can. So thank you once again, Debs, and it was lovely speaking to you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.